The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Now, let's join your host, three-time National Wrestling Writer and Broadcaster of the Year, Jason Bryant.
Another episode of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling as we wrap up the month of September and this season of the show. Joining us, just like we had assistant coach Frank Molinaro on earlier this week, now Jared Frayer coming into the fray. Pun poorly attempted and intended. Coach Frayer, how you been, man?
I am good, man. Busy. Getting ready for a big weekend here in Blacksburg.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Blacksburg first, but as before we even got started, as this program listeners know that Jared and I are both Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, and we had a tough go of it this past weekend, especially for me because I am married to a Vikings fan, so that is brutal. And having my kids being picked and wearing Vikings cheerleading outfits, and I don't have any choice over the matter. I'm like, no. So, what's it like when you go into those Civil War situations when it's the Bucs against one of your friends or family's teams?
Yeah, my wife is a Broncos fan, so we don't have that matchup too often. But when it is, it's a pretty cutthroat. So, but man, it's all right. I can handle the NFL talk. Start messing with my college teams, and then we got problems.
Well, I don't even want to talk about my college team based on what happened to your employer last week, and I almost got through the entire episode with Frank not mentioning that. But as I drink,
the Monarchs put forth a valiant effort.
Okay, let's stop right now. Okay, I saw a tweet that made a whole lot of sense. Virginia Tech football is in 125 years. That was Old Dominion's 101st game ever. So let's remember where it's not where you're going, it's where you're trying to get to, and it's not where you're. I don't know what I'm trying to think of something to defend it. They got shut out. They crossed midfield once, maybe twice, and they got a 17-year-old quarterback.
It was 3-0 after the first quarter. I thought it was pretty impressive. So
I was not disappointed by a 38-0 beatdown. Honestly, I mean the offense didn't do anything, but I was like, okay, well it could have been 50 like Carolina put up the week before.
Exactly.
But this is not the Old Dominion football podcast, and it's not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers football podcast, even though as much as I would like those two things to happen, that is not what Virginia Tech has brought me on for. What we have started to talk about with Mr. Frayer is his first 6 months on the job, as you heard Frank go through his process and what it's been like for him the past 6 months. Let's start with Mr. Frayer. First 6 months on the job, what are your early returns on life in Blacksburg?
Man, it's been a whirlwind. It's definitely been a whirlwind, and an exciting whirlwind, and a fast-paced whirlwind at that. Yeah, man, I kind of went, it's kind of funny. I posted something, I think it was a video on Flow on my Facebook page, and, had, everybody congratulating me and, excited for me. And then had a director of anesthesiology at a hospital in Tampa say, "We miss you in the OR." And it kind of brought me full circle. 6 months ago, I was in the OR, and now I'm, getting ready to have the biggest recruiting weekend in Virginia Tech history. And it's just been nonstop, 55 nights in a hotel, running around Lincoln, Nebraska, Akron, Ohio, and everywhere in between, including Vegas, and just it's been a whirlwind. It's been an awesome 6 months. Exciting to get back into the sport that I love and super passionate about, and just it's great, man. We're settled in. Bought a house in Blacksburg, about a mile from campus. Both my girls are in their second month of school, and the wife has got a well-run salon in the basement of our house. So life is good, and just excited for what's to come here in Blacksburg.
After Frank cut his hair prior to the trials, that means he's got no use for said salon.
Exactly. They were my wife's shears that he used, but actually they got left in Lincoln. So he was gracious enough to buy my wife some new shears. So we're hopefully we're both growing our hair back out. We'll have plenty plenty of product to be used in the near future.
Yeah, you did. There was an era there. You had some flowing curly locks, as I do recall.
It's true, and we'll end up working our way. Maybe not that long, but
you're just gonna rub it in Roby's face. That's all you're doing that for. It's like, hey, Tony, look what I can do.
I'm not going to say that didn't come up on our recruiting visit while my wife and I went down, but it may have come up. And he hired 2 assistants with some pretty solid hair.
Yeah, as we talk about the local scene there, before we get into the wrestling discussion, when you're settling in a new place and your career, as far as competition wise, you don't have to worry about making the weight, as Frank still does, even though he's talked about he's moving up to a new weight class. Mm-hmm. So that leads me to a question: and I know there's some great spots to eat in Blacksburg. What have you discovered as one of your favorite spots to eat?
Well, when we and it's great because it's recruiting season right now, so we frequent many of the local eateries. But man, it's tough. I'm gonna have to go with Frank, and that Cabo Fish Taco is a tough place just with the the scenery and the environment. Just kind of brings me back to my Florida stomping grounds, and very light, casual, good meal that just about everybody enjoys, and it's literally I can almost hit it with a rock from my house. So we like to go to Cabo Fish Taco when we have the time.
Yeah, my question though is, having not been there before, what type of fish do you think they're using there?
We try not to talk about that.
See, I have a rule. You grew up in Florida where either way you're going to hit a coast if you drive within a certain amount. I have a rule living
right
out here in Minnesota. I don't eat seafood west of Richmond, Virginia, unless I can catch it. Like I'm eating lake fish. I'm eating walleye. Am I eating flounder out here? Nope.
Nope.
It's like the first time I came out here. I go, there's like, hey, you want to go to Red Lobster? No, take me to a steakhouse.
Exactly.
All right.
But what's nice about Blacksburg, there's these gals that drive here I think it's Monday and Thursday from the Jersey Shore, and they sell fresh catch from their they're called the Fish Ladies, and just a plug for them that they pull up in a refrigerated truck with supposedly fresh fish every Monday and Thursday. So there you go. Maybe Cabo's going to them.
Yeah, I just know that I can drive about 3 miles to the end of my parents' hometown and be like, all right, where are the crab cakes? Where's the crab? Yeah, so that's the one thing about growing up in the Chesapeake Bay that I definitely miss is the opportunity to get fresh. Now, I like myself some lake fish, some walleye, but yeah, it's kind of hard to beat a big flounder hoagie or something like that anyway.
No doubt.
Moving on, another experience is outside of the food, because I like food, I like football, as you've heard. I don't necessarily know what winning football is a whole lot like, but you being an Oklahoma grad, you've had some monster events in Norman, and Blacksburg has made itself a football town over the last 2 decades, especially. What are those tailgating experiences like, the football experiences like from Blacksburg, and comparing them to your time in Norman?
Well, it's great. I mean, as far as the wrestling program, I think we do a great job of doing our own tailgate, and it's right in the mecca of everybody else's tailgate. So this is really the first place where Roby and the program have really put a emphasis on doing our own tailgate, the whole 9 yards. Just got a satellite, big screen TV, cater everything. So it's great to welcome back alumni and our guys and recruits and families, and really be able to sell the program, not only in the wrestling room and on the mat, but on a social level. And it's pretty cool to see that emphasis on Saturdays, because me and Roby, Molinaro, we're all big time college football fans. So the experience here is unlike any other, and Saturday night is going to be something that I'm pretty fired up for. It's been a long time since I've been to a game of this magnitude, and I think it was the Wisconsin Ohio State game was the last night game where it was 2 top 10 teams getting ready to go to work. So I'm fired up, man. It's going to be an awesome event here in Lane Stadium.
Well, when we talk about the prevalence of good football teams really helping the recruiting process, you've had the opportunity, having going to OU, having coached at Iowa, having now coached at Virginia Tech, but also coaching at Harvard. Let's explain maybe a football recruiting weekend at the Ivy League versus one, say, I don't know, the Big Ten, the Big 12.
Well, it's definitely a little more of a social event. Although that the Harvard Yale game is something that everyone should take a peek at. It's a pretty awesome event. Throwing my love over to Jay Weiss. Still doing such an awesome job at Harvard, and it is. It's more of a social event. I think Harvard Stadium's the oldest stadium in the country, and the like Soldier Field and some of the more iconic stadiums and venues around the country are mimicked after Harvard Stadium, and it's just it's a little different. It's not the normal recruiting weekend of a big time college football program, but it's a spectacle and something that should definitely be seen. So different, yet still something that you want to get your guys to.
I'm trying to look at the timeline and when you were there, and of course the notorious Harvard Yale "We Suck" prank. Were you there at that time when that happened?
No, I think that was like 2007 or 8, and right after I had left.
Or it might actually, it says 04. It might have been right before you got there. So I mean, it was one of these things. I just remember you mentioned Harvard Yale. I'm like, that would be it. Yeah, that's if you don't know what we're talking about, just YouTube Harvard says "We Suck," and it's actually quite hilarious. Sorry, Jay, because you and I both share an affinity for Jay Weiss and his old stomping grounds of Lancaster and Franklin and Marshall. But as we get back to our somewhat informal discussion with Jared Frayer, when we start off preseason, what have you noticed that's been different about how Tony Roby's getting things rolling from other places you've coached?
Well, I think just the really all goes back to the kids. I mean, seeing the passion that these kids have, the workouts that went through the summer and right into preseason. As far as what they're willing to give and the buying in that they're doing into Frank's kind of workout scheme and then into all of our technical and different aspects that we bring to the table. Just seeing their loyalty to Roby and how he's really, he's the cog that brought all this through and has made this as seamless a process as before, and to see them buy into these two new guys that literally are 6 months into the job, and they're buying what we're selling, and I think we're doing a great job, and for the most part we're getting better. We're getting better at the sport of wrestling. We're not running a million times a day, but we're doing a lot of teaching, kind of pushing our what we're looking for in our wrestlers, and then I think we're doing a great job. Our guys' weights are where they need to be, and that's such a big part of the sport. And man, we're just excited to see some different competition here in about 5 weeks.
Speaking of competition, you were in the corner for Frank Molinaro at the World Team Trials, where he finished second in the best of 3 series to Zane Rutherford, his former club teammate up at Penn State. And what was it like for you to get back in the corner in a freestyle situation with new surroundings, a new guy you're coaching who you're just gone in? You've both been hired at a school. You've got a Southeast Regional Training Center, shirts on. I mean, this new everything for you. Right.
And man, it was heartbreaking for me. It was it's like getting back on a bike as far as being in his corner and the surroundings. I was in it, so many times in the past, but to be in his corner and knowing, for the short time that I knew him, the passion that he had of with the sport and winning and doing everything the right way, just heartbroken to see him not, get his hand raised in the final match. Knowing what kind of just the transition, it was a difficult transition, especially for him, having to train kind of part-time, both areas, out of his element per se. And, he's a passionate, fiery guy that will do anything he can to get his hand raised. Wrestling is his life, and behind his family, that's what he strives to be great in. And so it was hard. It was definitely a position that I think perfect position. He's on that team, and to see the the guys that he beat in the last year be so successful at the World Championships. Just difficult, and he's excited to get back on the horse and continue to make some world teams and make that team in 2020.
And not to bring up any skeletons or bad blood or bad memories, but you were in a position where you lost a tight best-of-3 series to make a world team. Now, you eventually would go on to make an Olympic team in 2012. Frank's kind of doing it backwards. He's made the Olympic team and now lost a tight, gritty best-of-3 series in the world team trials. What advice do you have for a guy like Frank coming off that situation where it's the world championships and you were this close?
Right. He's such a mature guy. He's a mature competitor. He's coached and just been a competitor, and he understands how close he is. He understands how big of a deal the lifestyle part of being a champion is, and I think we all realized that he was making changes in his lifestyle that maybe didn't play into being in tip top shape, and that's neither here nor there, and he's going to make those changes. We're going to make those changes. I'm going to be a better coach and better resource for him in the future, and he's going to make those changes and be better for it. So it's just it's a growing pain that I went through a lot of them. He's gone through that now, and like I said, he's going to be on top of that podium in no time.
Frank had talked about some of the tricks that you bring to the table when it comes to technical things. Now that he's going to go up and he is going to probably focus less on dropping weight and those hard weight cuts before making 65 kilos, now going up to 70. How much are you going to try to maybe slide in some of your bag of tricks into his offensive arsenal?
As much as I can, and he says that he's this fundamental elementary wrestler that he's got plenty of tricks himself. So I'm going to help him where I can. It's great to have Graf back in there, so it's being able to teach him, Graf, and Wallace they're all very similar. They're straightforward. They're attackers. They're not going to leave anything on the table. They're going to go after and try and score some points. So being able to throw in a trick or two for those guys, where they're not necessarily vanilla, but they might have it might help them to have a little trick up their sleeve. I think we have some I have some skills to help them not only in their top wrestling, but maybe their defensive wrestling and counter offense. So where it's needed, I'll help him, but he's when he makes weight right and is ready to go and has lived the right lifestyle, nobody's going to beat him. So excited for him and all these guys. They're doing the right things and are finally in an environment where they can really, the sky's the limit.
Well, as we talk about tools and toolboxes, what was your favorite junk move that gave you the most success, whether it be a folk style or freestyle?
Man, I think just being able to take advantage of guys getting out of position, and you're not going to get guys out of position too much at this level, but those little knacks where a guy's hips are turned the right way, or you take away a post, and I mean they weren't necessarily junk moves, but I'm going to take advantage of a guy. If he's going to pick his head up and let me headlock him, I'm going to headlock him. So I've
we call that Matt savvy
with the headlock. So just taking advantage of positions where I've been wrestling freestyle since I was a 4 or 5 year old, and I didn't wrestle folk style until I was a freshman in high school. So we didn't have that down in Florida. We just had freestyle and USA Wrestling. So I think it's just experience and being able to take advantage of a guy being out of position.
You mentioned Tyler Graf, and we asked Frank the same question about what's that relationship been like building with him. He spoke highly of his work ethic, and what's your perspective on what Tyler Graf is going to bring to the program?
No doubt. There's nobody that works harder than him. And I was with him for 2.5 years at Wisconsin, and nothing's changed. He's actually, really broadened his horizons as a wrestler and as a human being, and his work ethic, his coaching, every little thing he is thought through, and and has a great understanding of the sport and what it takes to excel. And, he's had some bad breaks in his career. And I think now that he's actually training with college guys and international guys on a regular basis, he's got as bright a future as anybody. So I'm fired up for Tyler. I've known him for a long, long time. And I think that he's in a place where he can really blossom and start making some world teams and finish up in Tokyo.
Yeah, so how much does a change of scenery really impact somebody who's, again, he is just a freestyle monster. He has beaten basically everybody domestically and then has the one tight one in Lincoln that changes the course of his season. What does that change of scenery do for an athlete?
Well, I mean, not as much the change of scenery. It's the fact that his main workout partners were high school kids. So, I mean, he's literally working out with high school kids for the last 2-3 years, and not, when he goes on training camps or goes abroad and is able to get his hands on guys, in competitions and little training camps here and there. That's the only time he's wrestling with guys that can push him. And now, for him to go with myself, Frank, all our guys on our team, it's a whole nother level of training, and he's fired up about it. And, we really have to scale back his training off the mat because he trained so hard off the mat because he had no one to push him on the mat. So we're having to really pull back his cardio and his lifts and that type of stuff, where he really had to focus on that to be in the shape to win Pan Ams, to win these prestigious tournaments around the country and around the world, that he needs to pull that back and just focus on his wrestling. And I think that's really where it's going to help him the most. And I think with his wife having a great job in the engineering department here, it allows him to do that, and he's going to be great for all of our young guys.
How much do you think the draw of you being there helped him in his decision to join the Southeast Regional Training Center and the coaching staff?
It was a big. I think it was a big deal. I mean, he knew me. He trusted me. I saw him literally at 4 a.m. after I was getting on a flight. We were both on the same flight to Chicago out of Lincoln, and it was 4:30 a.m. and I cornered him. I said, Tyler, I mean, what's your goal? And he's like, to make a world team and to make Olympic teams. And I had to question him. I got to be hard on him and say, are you in the right place to be able to do that? And I want you to think about it. If you really think that you are, then don't call me. But if you are looking for something that is going to put you in a position to do those things, I want you to call me. And I think that was Sunday, and he called on Wednesday, and the ball started rolling.
So with the new weight classes the way they are and the weigh-in schedule, his days at 57 are probably done.
Yeah, except for 2020. I think that's still on the table. 61's perfect, 2-hour weigh-in for him. But when it comes to Olympic year, when that weight's not there, me personally, I don't think he's a 65-pounder. I'm not sure if I can sell him on that, but I think 57. He would need to shrink his body a good probably 10 pounds, and he doesn't get huge. He's so disciplined that he's never too far away from it. He's always a day away from making weight. So that's just the way he's wired, and he always will be. And that's kudos to him. And 57 might be the weight. If he feels like 65 is, then he'll bulk up and be a 65 kilo. So. That's the hard thing about the Olympic weights, and world weights, no problem. He's going to be the best guy at 61.
Now, moving forward, we're going to get into the recruiting and back on the college scene for a minute, as reached out for a couple questions from Hokie Nation via the Tech Sideline Forum, which I don't know if you knew this beforehand. There was no wrestling-specific forum on Tech Sideline before, I guess it's been about a year. It was always in the Olympic sports. Now that there's a wrestling culture so big in Blacksburg now that one of the most popular message boards for Tech sports is like, all right, we got to have a wrestling. This wrestling has overtaken the Olympic sports board. You get your own board. So that's a positive thing.
Yes, sir.
So speaking of that, we get the question from Michael Shelton, who is a proud Hokie fan and listener of this program, wants to know, what will it take for Virginia Tech to start getting top 10 kids to commit on a consistent basis?
We should know more about that question in about 48 hours, but and that's the thing. Getting guys on campus, seeing how special this place is, and then performing on the mat, and seeing seeing these guys go out with an offensive style, a fun style, a style that's going to get people in the seats, not just top 10 recruits, but fans, and continuing to keep guys at that level. We have a huge weekend coming up, and it could play a huge part in the future of the program. And not that it's the end all, but we're going to continue to try and get the best kids on campus, young kids. I think over the summer, we can attest to reaching out and trying to get the best kids at camp, on campus for unofficials, and the proof's gonna be in the pudding real soon. So just hold that, Mr. Shelton, and we'll touch on that here in a week or two.
Yeah, it might also depend on I don't know, the Clemson game, but we'll get to the we've already talked about the football, although that the Maroon Effect should be interesting. I know I'm definitely going to be watching that one, because I have to admit this. Prior to said alma mater having a football program, I am a Tech football fan. So I've had to, I don't believe in the number 2 team, so to speak, but having rooted for Tech for so long growing up before said alma mater gets a team, I feel like, Saturdays I watch Old Dominion and I watch the Hokies. So I just want to let Hokie Nation know that I've been there with you guys until, said school, for those of us actually that didn't go to school there. But, and some people that listen to the show know about my experiences in Blacksburg more than others. We won't say anything about Chris Martin's chandelier. Anyway, getting back to the recruiting things, because I don't believe that was a recruiting weekend where I broke that. But we talked with Frank about social media and how much this has played a role in recruiting. You're my age, so we're a little struggling, maybe a little bit more with the social media and how the kids these days are interacting. But when it comes to recruiting, when you see kids post stuff, whether it be on Twitter or Facebook, and the coaches are going to be following them, what are some things that you think recruits should absolutely not do, and say, hey, if you want to come to Virginia Tech, you need to not do that stuff?
Yeah, I think the kids are a lot smarter these days. They're starting to understand the culture that they need to surround themselves with, and being smart on that type of stuff. And it really is. I mean, to college coaches, it's a one strike deal. It's if you post something or are tagged in something or whatever the case may be, that's on you. It's a huge responsibility on these prospective student athletes that, you got to surround yourself with people that care about you, that are going the same path that you're going. And, it's a big deal if something like that gets posted out there. Not only, it's not only about college athletics now, it's your future employers. I got in the corporate world for a couple of years, and I know that, guys that are looking to interview kids, they're going pretty far back on their social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter. I obviously can't go back. I'm just learning this whole Snapchat thing, but Instagram and all that good stuff. So my wife and daughter are trying to teach me how to Snapchat. So, but yeah, man, it's a big deal, and the kids need to be aware of it, careful about it, and if something's getting on there one time, then there's a problem. It's obviously a pattern and something that either needs to be nipped in the bud or we're moving on to the next guy. So no doubt.
One of my tips
it's a big deal
for kids was don't put anything that you kind of have to like talk around, explain. Like if your handle is something that's like you can find on Urban Dictionary, not a good start, because the last thing you want is your sports administrator coming in and going, hey, what is and you have to go to Urban Dictionary to look it up. That's a little tip for you recruits out there that are listening. Now, moving forward with your goals here, you've been there 6 months now. The next 6 months, by the time that 6 months ends, the college wrestling season for 2017-2018 will be over. What goals do you have personally for the program? What goals do you have personally as a coach? And what goals personally do you have for the kids that you've got your hands on most of the time?
Just improving daily, and that's what we preach. Whether it be in our our athletic life, academic life, social life, spiritual life, we're getting better in all four of those facets. As a team, I think we expect ourselves to win ACC titles and be in the hunt for an NCAA trophy. And And then just like I said, if we're getting better every day in those 4 facets, we're gonna put ourselves in position to do great things come March. So I think we're heading the right direction. We are focusing on those facets, and we're gonna be where we need to be come March. So we're doing a great job, I think, as a staff coming together, giving these guys the resources to be great. Now it's about them taking the horns and running with them.
So how is Tony Roby as a leader?
I don't think I would have come back to college wrestling if it was for somebody else. I think, and I've been around a lot of great people in this sport. But to see his passion for the sport, his passion for this university, for the guys on the team, the families that surround this program, he's been an assistant for a long time, and has seen a lot of things, has worked his tail off to get where he's at, and he's just doing a great job giving us the responsibilities to thrive in the positions that Frank and I are in, and Ty and Tyler. It's been great, and he leads by example. I mean, he works his tail off, throughout the day, and then into the evening. When he's texting me or emailing me stuff about recruits for the next day, or something in administration that needs to be done. It's anywhere from 7 in the morning to 10 at night, and he's all about taking this program to the next level. So it's been nothing. I can't say enough great things. Not just because he's my boss, but just getting to know him as a human being, and seeing how passionate he is about wrestling, about getting better in life, and this university as a whole.
Now, the one question Frank Molinaro had for you, and you've actually had probably a couple days to think on this one. He wanted to know, what was the hardest match you wrestled and won?
The hardest match that I wrestled and won. This is from Frank Molinaro?
Frank Molinaro's asking this.
Man, it was probably wrestling, I don't want to name drop here, but wrestling Kerry Colott in 2005. He just made a comeback, and he was my hero growing up, knowing that I was going to have to wrestle my hero and legend on his, I think it was his second match back to Dave Schultz. And God willing, I came up with a victory, and that was a pretty big match in my eyes, because his pedigree, his history, and sure enough, he came back and beat me in the 2008 Olympic trials. But that was a pretty big match that was tough, just because of who I was wrestling, and being able to sneak out the victory was kind of had me kind of floating on cloud 9.
Yeah, I just couldn't imagine wrestling my hero, because in my case, as horrible of a wrestler as I was, that would mean wrestling like Baumgartner or Kerry McCoy, and that's just there's just no chance. I mean, I might have. I mean, a bat wouldn't help me against either of those two guys.
Yes. I don't know anybody that it would help. A bat. I would be no chance against those two beasts.
I mean, I'd probably lose that match if I was driving a steamroller. Seriously.
Yep. Yeah, we talk about old Coach Bruce a lot with Roby, and such a monster of a man, and just a legend in the sport.
Been finishing up here with Jared Frayer, as this team is got a huge football weekend coming up with some recruits in town. Congratulations on your first 6 months in Blacksburg, and we look forward to hearing from you on the next 6 months. So let's hopefully Tampa Bay get some wins while we're at it, and the Hokies perform on the mat in this preseason.
No doubt, Jason. I appreciate the time, and go Hokies.
show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.